The DNC has said they were subcontractors and had no connection to what we're doing out there across the country. What's the RNC's response to this?
Well, I mean, to quote Hillary Clinton, I think this is deplorable. The idea that you would hire somebody, contractor, subcontractor, employee, in any way, shape, or form to create violence at an opponent's event or rally is just disgusting. I mean, that's not what we're about as a country.
One of the allegations, just so our viewers know if they haven't seen it, is that they are talking about a Trump rally specifically in Chicago.
Right, which ended up
about
in
6
violence.
months ago.
Right.
And yes, it was.
It ended up in violence, and we've seen this now. We just saw in North Carolina, one of our county headquarters was firebombed. I'm not saying there's any connection at all, but the idea that you would incite violence as a means to protest another candidate or hire somebody or in any way condone is just deplorable. And the idea that right now you've had utter silence from the Clinton campaign on this tells you something. I mean, they should be out there saying there's no way, shape, or form we're associated with this. We're disgusted by this. There are plenty of outrage every time Donald Trump opens his mouth and says something, or there's a tape or a disclosure from 10, 15 years ago. But when an instance like this gets revealed, they have nothing to say.
Well, the other thing on this tape that shows how people get paid, and they take you through details.
Right.
The NC pays, blah, blah, blah. They go, blah, blah, and then
level
we get paid.
of which they went through to make sure that nobody could find how this organization was paid is unbelievable. I mean, there's 4 or 5 steps to make sure that nobody connected the dots. Until they revealed it on that tape, you would have never known.
You know, there was a lot of sort of capital spent on sort of making the Trump supporters look like they were a violent, crazy bunch of people. Right. And, you know, news organizations took off with that story, and, you know, all the time he would get up there and say, look, you know, these are not our people who are doing this. Well, and people said, you know, that he was full of it on that, but it looks like maybe he wasn't.
But the interesting thing, and you're absolutely right, is that the news organizations ran to cover these sort of, you know, events that occurred. But when the disclosure comes that it actually was staged and paid for by an outside group, there's nowhere to be found. You see nothing on the major networks, nothing in the major mainstream media about how it actually happened. So it's fascinating how quick the media runs to cover every concern or every crazy person that attends a rally. But when the truth comes out, and when you realize that this is an organized, staged effort on the left, there's nothing from the media.
Let's talk about tonight now. What do you expect America to see from Donald Trump?
Well, this is a change election. And I think tonight you're going to continue to see the contrast. That if you like the status quo, if you like the way things are going, you vote for the people who've been in Washington forever and brag about how many offices they've held and how many years they've been in Washington. If you're ready for change, if you want to mix things up, if you're tired of the status quo, then you're going to vote for Trump and Pence. And tonight you're going to see more of that. You're going to see that contrast. You're going to see the end of the status quo. And so once again, Donald Trump's got to make that closing argument that says, if you're ready for change, I'm your guy.
In terms of fitness to be president, that has been one of the things that she has poked at over and over. And the polls show that maybe he's vulnerable on that. How does he fix that tonight?
I think he has to remind people, look at fitness for president. Through all of these disclosures that have occurred over the last month or two, what you've seen is someone who has, you know, played by a set of their own rules, to set up a secret server that's housed classified information, you know, said no when it came to that 3 a.m. call in Benghazi that 4 Americans were killed at. There's over and over again, if Hillary Clinton wants to talk about fitness to serve, she better be ready to play, because she's the one with a record that hasn't lived up to that fitness to serve.
You just heard Jennifer Griffin talk about 2 things specifically. They feel good about the polls on Hillary Clinton's team, and they also feel as if she can run out the clock. What would you say to that, Sean?
Well, I think that there are 20 days to go. And as I mentioned at the outset, this is a change election. I think Americans, if she was ready to run out the clock, the polls wouldn't be where they are. Everything's within the margin of error right now. This is a tight race. And I think Hillary Clinton's de facto the incumbent. She's been around in Washington for 30 years. She just left as Secretary of State of the Obama administration. I think if people were ready to continue that, she would have closed this deal by now. She is the de facto incumbent, and I don't think people are ready to continue down the path of what we've seen for the last 8 years.